Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
So, coming tonight, I get to share from the usual spot at the Holiday Inn Express in Elgin, Texas. Good to be with all of you. The monthly journey. Woohoo! Yeah, yeehaw! You talking Texan when I'm out here. So, and what a gift it is that with technology we get to join together, no matter where I am, wherever you are. And glad that the Dharma Center made it on. Good to see you folks there, Carbondale. Now, we just wrapped up the 12 links of dependent origination. So I thought it'd be fun to have a pop quiz, see if anyone could describe all 12 of them and kind of, refresh us. Yeah, just teasing there. So I did post the slides that Keith requested just a little bit before the teaching. It was actually preparing for this. I remember that was a request. So the slides that we'd use that summarizes each of these 12 links and how one leads to another. So that's available in the community. So anyone in the Way of Compassion community, you can have access to those. You can just download them. It's PDF. And in the text, we'll be returning to that now. What we had done last bit of time is, because the text gets very deeply intricate into all the components of samsara and the cycle and the real in-depth in comparison with different lineages is that we took out and just hopefully made a real practical presentation of these 12 links in a way that could make sense to us in our own lives. And, just made sure we covered those pretty well. Otherwise, yeah, we could be spending a few months working through just that section. So now you're all well-versed in how these senses come to life and contact happens and craving and how we just our own misperception conditioning arises that we get caught up in delusive thinking and creating a prison for ourselves. It's really quite wonderful, I think, that there's this opportunity we have to not just know it, but to start recognizing how to engage with people and events in ways that don't give rise to that delusional craving, that we can liberate ourselves, that we can cultivate appreciation instead of attachment, that we can know love instead of grasping and clinging, and how to notice how just sensations of pleasure can be reinforced in our mind and body, and we can name it and label it as the cause of our happiness, which quite a slippery slope. Instead of just appreciating the pleasure when that situation, that event comes to life, and having the sense of knowing, of understanding how sensations arise in the body and how much of it has to do with how I'm attending to the event or the thing, how much of it to my previous conditioning, that these events that we label outside of ourselves as, really wonderful and I need them, and understanding that I'm actually creating the causes, the internal causes for lasting happiness and well-being all the time. And then these events will trigger these sensations, which will be either pleasurable, not pleasurable, or not interesting at all, kind of neutral. And in the text, it made a point to kind of see if we can't meditate on understanding that in our own aspects. And I think it's nice to notice in your own experience. And that's what I've been playing with a little bit since last week, playing with what's giving rise to pleasurable sensations, what's giving rise to the unpleasant ones, and really playing with when the unpleasant ones arise, the tiredness or laziness or not wanting to do something, is that even true, or is it just a sensation? What if I start doing it anyway and I find, oh, actually I'm not tired? Now I'm interested. And being able to shift how I'm attending to this event in my life or this person in my life or this thing I have to do or this thing that is helping me liberate myself. And it's the same thing. And so I think this understanding these 12 links and specifically how, once contact is made, when something is pleasurable or not pleasurable or neutral, noting and recognizing its sensation. Okay. Now, what meaning am I bringing to that sensation? And can I attend to this event in a different way and even change the sensation? Can I go from I don't want to do anything, like the Bruno Mars song, I don't want to do anything, my lazy day song, or this is really important. I get to do something here. Quick survey. Anybody know the exact name of that song, that lazy song, Bruno Mars? Come on, Richard, JoJo, somebody's got music in the background. He's like in his pajamas dancing around with how he doesn't want to do anything today. He's just lazy. Love that video. So just not here giving me the answer. I'll have to look it up later.
It's called The Lazy Song.
It is called The Lazy Song. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. So as we go into our practices, it's pretty easy sometimes to, feel pretty inspired or have some good moments and something's, quite wonderful. And then have other days where, I really don't want to. I'd rather, do anything in the world but my practice. And not even realize that that's actually doing my practice, noticing that I don't want to do my practice. Like, wow, that's actually a great insight. And I'm aware. And, being able to play with the elaborations and exaggerations that give rise to our suffering. And I think that's where I like to land. How do I go from a sensation in my body to this is the most important thing in my life? Or a sensation in my body to this is the worst thing that could happen to me? And start understanding, those relationships and the way that we elaborate on something. And, whether someone looks at us a particular way, like, wow, they just gave me this look, I know they're, they don't like me, or, just how we read into things, how we just layer it up. And our own self-worth gets involved. And then we have these stories in our minds and people, and we label them the ones we like, the ones we don't like. Have insecurity, hoping these people do like us, because I like them, and and it becomes so big and powerful. But when we can back down through these 12 links, we might start noticing the relationship of sensations that I'm experiencing in my body with my attitudes and with the event itself, and then the story that gives rise to that person or that event, and then how easy it is to think that that outer event is actually causing all of this. And then if we like it, try to capture that event, that person, and take them hostage, and or that, that food or whatever it is. And then there's a real power that we can cultivate, a real sense of agency in our lives, where we can start to notice the sensations, be more aware of those, notice the elaborations, exaggerations, and then at some point maybe realize that, your degree of that pleasure sensation can be right here in your living room. Matter of fact, I was having a pretty good one. I was drinking a nice cold seltzer water here a little while ago. Nice, real nice sensation. I had to put it down, because it was empty. Otherwise, I'd still be slurping on it. So, we have that great sensation. Now, is that sensation any different than some other joy or feeling good sensation? And you'll notice there's variance, right? There's a bandwidth of that sensation, all the way from, as they talk about within the brain, like dopamine, the big rush, or serotonin, the more calm and sense of fulfillment. And, these things are all going on in our bodies. And then we're often playing in reverse. We are responding to the sensation and then labeling, instead of recognizing, if we were mind first, how we attended to something is going to change the sensation of my body. And that's a very different way that we get to engage in life around pleasure and things that are not pleasurable. And we talked, I think, we talked a lot at the retreat about this. I want to make sure. I think we've talked many times here about how we turn the things that are meaningful in our life into chores. Right? I gotta go do the chores. And those chores are usually the very things that are giving life to the house that we live in, the life that we have, the things we get to enjoy. And why are they chores? To attend to the life that you've been dreaming of and building, right? But attending to it differently, it's no longer a chore. It's this incredible life that I get to participate in, and the home I get to live in, and so forth. So we can know all that intellectually, but boy, when that body ramps up one way or another, where it's activated one way or another, pleasure or pain or resistance or desire, we're pretty much can pretty easily be a prisoner of that whole experience of the sensation and what I really believe I want, need, and or what I absolutely don't want. And there's a journey often to work through some of those sensations. And I actually got to do that in Mexico. Good old Richard helped me, change that in my life. Went horse riding, horseback riding. I mean, I was a full-on cowboy. You should have seen it. And I've never ridden a horse since I've never ridden a horse, period, really. When I was a young child, had sort of kind of a traumatic kind of event with a horse. And so, they've always been this thing I'm not that interested in. And intimidating and scared. And so, that kind of sensation would prevent me from, even though in a rational mind, I see that people ride horses and they don't immediately die, often, believe it or not. I've actually seen that. And, not every horse is going to turn around, bite your leg off, throw you off, and stomp you to death. Alyssa's a big horse person, so she's still alive. She's ridden them for quite a while. And yeah, so knowing all that, then you go near a horse and the body does a whole different thing, right? And but it came to a point in my life where I hadn't been around horse. Even the thought of riding a horse really hasn't been a thing in my life for many, many years. And now with this practice and the person I am today and the invitation to ride a horse down in Mexico, why not? And because of different training, it was really no big deal at all. It wasn't like I had to walk through a big thing to giddy on up. And yet, years ago, that would have been this huge thing. But it was much more the experience, these are trail horses. They're well trained. They kind of know the trail. You don't got to do much. They're pretty much going to follow. Not a big deal. And the more rational experience was able to just do it and have a good time. And by the end of it, man, you're ready to go do those. What is it when you go to barrel racing, backing around? Richard and I were even thinking maybe wrestling a little cattle. You're that good. And but apparently it's illegal to do that, so we chose not to. So, but where our body, mind, rational mind, this body experience that happens with us, and then the exaggerations, the labeling, and can we use these 12 links in a way of understanding we all have previous conditioning due to our experiences. These things are conditioned, and how we interact with an event or someone is going to give a sensation. And it has a lot to do with my previous conditions, which has now made up my belief system, which now has my views. And then contact, and contact can be thoughts, sound, physical through these senses. And then all of a sudden I'm angry and frustrated and these people are idiots, or what a lovely thing to do and how wonderful this is. And some people actually like the taste of grapefruit. I have no idea why. And start to understand, that it's not, the grapefruit itself. It's all this conditioning. And then from a Buddhist perspective, that conditioning, as we think in terms of karma, we can really work with that conditioning, and things that used to not be pleasurable can be pleasurable. Like maybe one day I like a grapefruit. I mean, theoretically, it's possible. And so there's a lot of things we used to like that now, used to not like, that we now like and appreciate. And as we change our karma, we change our experiences. The sensations change, and we can alleviate a lot of suffering that way. And so real good practice is to, be aware. That's why I love meditation, be aware of, where we are feeling something in our body or what these sensations are, and see if we can't kind of understand them a little bit and how they give rise to a whole big story. So just pausing there, see if anyone had any thoughts or anything before we move on to the topic, if we still have time to get to the topic. You know how that happens. I go through all the intro and then we have time. All right, Greta and Carla.
Hey, thanks, John. Good to see you. Man, it's so timely that you're talking about this, because I just started school. I'm going back to college, and I got this I'm taking one of my classes is astronomy. So I just thought, oh, it's cool. I'll learn about the planets and the universe and blah, blah. Then we have the first homework assignment, and I'm like, I do it like 3 days before it's due. I open it up. I'm on a group chat. And when I see the content, of the homework assignment, my stomach, like everything started to churn because it's like physics. Like I have to do advanced calculus math. And I was like, what? And then I was like, okay, all I have to do is just pace myself. I'll sit down and I'll do it. But as I did it, I felt like I was going to have a panic attack. And it's like my mind knows, like, if I do A, B, and C, I can get D, like if I just time myself right and I process the information, it'll be fine. But the physical sensation the velocity of it was so incredible. It felt like destabilizing. And anyway, I got through it, but then right before I came on here tonight, I was looking at the notes to try to review them, and I had that same response again. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if it's called cognitive dissonance or not, but like that whole, like the body not matching the mind's logic about how something is going to play out. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a totally not an emotional situation like in a relationship, but nonetheless, it's painful to try to like work with that emotion. I don't know where it comes from, and I don't know exactly. I mean, I have an idea, but I'm just wondering like your thoughts about that in alignment with what you were talking about.
Well, I think you're really, first off, doing a great job.
Thank you. It's hard, but it's worth it. It's fun, but it's also like I kept trying to think about, like you were talking about, it's an opportunity. So I was like, okay, opportunity. And this homework took me 12 hours. You know what I mean? But I was also like, if I know something about a thing or two about science, it's like there is something about that tension, like working through that friction and that suffering that builds something incredibly valuable inside, which I don't want to the whole Dharma talk about it, but yeah.
Yeah. And, I think you actually described the answer to your question, which was that your sensations were not matching what your mind knew to be true, right? And then you, with your mind, said, I know if I do A, B, and C, I'll get to D, right? And then you did it. And, or you did do it, right? Tell me you did it.
I did cheat on some.
Okay.
Honestly, I used ChatGPT with some things because I was like, I actually will never finish this if I don't. The thing I'm worried about is like, okay, when we get to the test, and I talked to the professor about it. Anyway, I don't want to take up a bunch of time. I just like, I guess I'm just trying.
I think the whole group would love to answer your physics question and kind of guide you through that. But yeah, no, I guess I'm just pointing out that that you were able to use your mind, your understanding to work through something. Yeah, whether you use ChatGPT or did some of the stuff on here, but you're finding what you could and couldn't do, and you were working through it. And it sounds like you talked to your professor. In other words, you did all the healthy things in spite of what you were feeling.
Right. So does that mean it gets less the more you do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Matter of fact, what you just did, a lot of people could have never gotten to, right? Freak out, panic, do anything but that, immediately drop the course, or, just all kinds of coping mechanisms we could have engaged in. And your coping mechanism was to work through it. And yeah, and you know what I'm going to say, what you did is probably a result of you having worked through other stuff previously.
Right. I don't want to go through it again, honestly, though, but
I get you. Yeah.
just saying. But
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, it's doing great. And then of course just talk to your professor, see if it's a course you can take, whether it's worth that energy or not. Sometimes just like, oh, there's not the force I thought, and it's appropriate for me to not force myself through this. Yeah. So that's doable. Carla.
I'm glad to hear what Greta had to say about feeling these sensations in her body, because I don't think I feel physical sensations. I feel like when I have an emotion, it's pretty much all mental.
Mhm.
So that was just my observation.
Yeah. It can really feel like that. Yeah, it's just this whole sort of mental experience. And that's where, yeah, that training of, recognizing that, this is a sensation that I'm experiencing. And what's that? What is that sensation? And the more that we can have some aspect of that and in touch with our bodies will be great. But I think some of us are really good at not spending much time in the body. And I'm really good at not spending much time in my body. And, just that's why it's so important to ground, to come back. And when these, sensations is exploring what is the sensation I'm having. And I don't think locations is important as experiencing the sensation and identifying it is that.
So I guess I maybe, since that doesn't seem to happen too often, I'm kind of wondering how that's helpful to feel the physical sensation, just knowing that you're having a state that may not be grounded in reality.
Yeah. So, you ever get anxious?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
there's a good
sometimes
place.
I feel like that sensation of clenching in the stomach and whatnot, but say anger or even joyful states, generally I don't. The first thing I notice is not the physical sensation.
Right.
If I notice it, if I even notice a physical sensation at all at any point.
Right. And that's where it's good to see if you could. That would be my encouragement.
Okay, I guess I just don't quite understand what the advantage of that, of feeling that physical sensation is.
My experience is that it's understanding it's a sensation and not the event. So the more that I can notice the similarity of sensation in my body, whether it's joyful or whether it's fearful or whatever that bandwidth in between is, then it can take away a lot of the bite of what I'm pointing to as the cause of that sensation. And so the more that I can just kind of feel this sensation of the coolness of the water I drank out of my little seltzer water in the cold, and being in this moment, and then an emotional, even beyond that sensation, it could be a pleasure. But then if we get to just the sensation, then I can notice that sensation is very similar to me being, in a beach, with all this stuff or whatever I think I need for a vacation, let's say, but you have it right here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just more recognizing that whatever you're attributing to out there is actually occurring within, and it's maybe more just
And the
another
within is very similar to the other experience within that I identify as so much better.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. Yeah. I think I'm following you there.
Yeah. So that sensation, whether I'm sitting here in the Holiday Inn Express, which, by the way, apparently if you stay here at night, you can do brain surgery, according to the commercials. Or, at, a nice resort. The sensation in my body is the same, and yet I have a whole elaborative story about this other thing, right? It's really helpful when you see people in first class in the airplane, for example. They're just sitting in a chair like you are. But man, people, have a whole different mental, emotional experience between a seat and, there and a seat over here. And so the tactile sensation of sitting, right, and comfort, and, we could kind of relate. I got bumped up to first class going on two of my flights recently. And, they're short flights, so it's not the full on where they're going to give you the warm, wet towel, because that is in case actually totally different. But it's funny how much people pay for a hot, wet, warm towel. But and you can do that in your own house, by the way. So, but when I'm sitting in this other chair, I'm kind of noticing it's not a lot different than the sensation I had in the chair, a few rows back. And yet there's a whole story that can be built around that. And a desire like, ooh, I hope I get bumped to first class, And then you don't, and you were that close. But man, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Because I can keep talking about it. You could have said, well, it sort of does, but what about? And then we have lots of other fun examples. But yeah, and so then we start recognizing how much story we make up if we go all the way down to just the sensation, and how much elaboration comes from that sensation. And we do it like in nanoseconds, without thinking about it. And this kind of slows you down in the process. And then if I'm worked up, well, why am I worked up? And I kind of, can work my way down again, and start to recognize, I'm okay. And how much of it's just this belief system, this mental idea about what, I really need to be happy, what makes my life meaningful.
Can I add about the sensations and how they might be important to
Sure.
experience? I think they sorry about that. I think they do something about enhancing information about what we're experiencing. That when this sounds kind of weird, but I try actually to spend a lot of time in my body it's part of being around horses a lot, because horses are incredibly sensitive to whatever we're experiencing on the inside. And we can try to fake it on the outside, but they know. And if I'm not in touch with whatever's going on inside my body physically, I can get into trouble with my horse. And so of awareness, just because of what I do a lot, is focused in here. And it really, it just sort of, in all areas of life, just kind of help to make things even more meaningful and fulfilling. And then it also gives me that perspective, like, wait a minute, I feel that in here. Does that really correlate with what's going on out there? Or can I see something a little differently? Can I try to feel it a little bit differently? Is it helping me, or is it actually hurting? How can I rearrange the stuff on the inside to help me navigate whatever's going on the outside? So for me, it's just, it makes life fuller and more navigable. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
good information to be in touch with. And, you know, a lot of people with a lot of trauma or struggles, you know, they just can't be in their body, you know, it's not safe. And, you know, so there's real opportunities. But then again, just back to contact. You know, contact also in the Buddhist sense would be with thought. You know, so contact with my consciousness, a thought. And we all know that we can have a thought, and then that can have a whole experience in our body, right? You have a thought that gives rise to fear, or a thought that gives rise to desire. Thought. And it's not that contact was something that I heard or, you know, touched or, you know, but, you know, the contact of thought. And then, whew, we can be, you know, really activated, right? And so I want to check in and see if Chris had anything to add to this, you know, seeing as how this might be a bit of your realm. Not to put you on the spot, but I actually think I just did. Isn't that funny when people say not to put you on the spot, but, you know, then they do it?
Not some kind of thoughts, not so much from the, I guess it's from a therapeutic perspective, but, you know, I noticed that like fear and excitement, the body responds in the exact same way. Like heart rate goes up, blood pressure, some of that, the sweaty palms. And, you know, if I'm out rock climbing, I view that as something I'm moving towards, because it's all about context. And so the meaning that we attach to the events really determines our state of mind. And so I think, you know, the point about what's going on in my body, and really sometimes reframing, just like the exploration of is the way I'm thinking about this, is that's what's causing me distress. And I think from a trauma perspective, it's getting comfortable with those sensate feelings and not having, like Carl was talking about, being in your head. I mean, I think when people are really in their head, that's a defense mechanism oftentimes. And oftentimes that comes from experience where fear or that sympathetic activation is associated with something bad happening. And I think a lot of this work, the meditation, is like, can I have some of this sympathetic activation because I'm thinking about jobs or taxes or relationships, or positive, just kind of observing it and being able to hold it long enough, because it is going to change over time, and not running away from it. So I think it's like what we're talking about kind of here is more like distress tolerance training, and not being training ourselves to sit with these emotions, because it is going to make us stronger rather than having to run away from it. You know, when our parents die or relationships come and go or jobs come and go, just being able to, like, you know, I can handle these feelings because we're learning how to sit with them. So that's my 25 cents on that.
Yeah, that was at least 26 cents, I'm going to say. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. And then to throw a monkey wrench in the whole of it all, because why not? The more that we can identify and connect with our awareness, then we have a metacognitive way of feeling the feelings and knowing I'm not those feelings, experiencing the body, know I'm much more than this body, and has the capacity, you know, that I think Greta was talking about, to say, I know this, my body's feeling this, but there's a more metacognitive thing that says, okay, what's this healthy thing to do, right? And then we have the capacity to do that, and knowing that you are much more than your body, and there's this mind-body experience, but the body is very much a part of this relationship, and we can get too much in and too much out. And then there's this observer capacity that we can have to rest in. And this sort of observer participant quality that we talked about at the last retreat we did is where we can be a really good observer, know everything that's going on, but then become disengaged, really. And so you want to have that capacity to observe, but also the engagement to feel. And then therein lies a tricky business, because you're more than human, but this human experience is what's given rise to all this other stuff. So, this nice balance. And Kurt or Keith?
Thanks, John. I noticed about, 10 years ago, sitting in an AA meeting, that my shoulders were up around my ears, and they'd been there for 30 years. And I'd never noticed it before. And if I could think, lower your shoulders, I could lower them. And as soon as I thought about anything else, bam, they were right back up there again. And I didn't know, it seemed to be completely independent from anything that was happening around me. And it's still there. It's gotten much better over the course of the last 4 or 5 years or so, 3 or 4 years, but it's still there. I still find myself with my shoulders up around my ears, but I don't, I for the life of me cannot figure out where it's coming from. It seems completely disconnected from anything that's going on mentally, right? And I don't know if it's just deep buried stuff that I haven't gotten to yet, or I don't know how to get to, or what. But anyway, that's been kind of more my experience with this body stuff is that it's complete. It's happening. It's just complete disconnect. I have no idea why. Right.
Yeah. We're consciously aware, but the body, and then that's going back to what Alyssa was saying, that body awareness can give some information, right? And then we can have a chance to change, thoughts as well. And as Chris pointed out, and then, if you notice your shoulders, what happens when you relax your shoulders? Then there's a different experience. So, sometimes it's move a muscle, change a thought. Sometimes it's change a thought, which, changes the muscle experience.
Yeah, I can think relax your shoulders, and as long as I'm thinking relax your shoulders, relax your shoulders, relax your shoulders, they stay relaxed.
Right.
As soon as I think I'd like a maple bar, they go right back up, or anything else, right? I need to do this, or I need to do that. They go right back up again. Right? And so it's just curious. I don't know. I'm getting more and more curious about it. And it is I am spending more time relaxed, but I was so unaware of that I spent so many years just tensed up like that without even really knowing it. Right. And it's weird. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, there's a lot going on we're unaware of. And this awareness, is a real gift. And a process. Well, that's bringing us up to the top of the hour. Wow. So with these 12 links, I would encourage you, if you can, to, go back. Like I said, I posted the slides, so it's that more concise information. Now, one leads to the other, and so forth. And see if there is a potential practice this week of noticing, the sensations, whether they're mental, emotional, physical, and however you relate to it. and engaging that with your experiencing, with what you're experiencing, and seeing how shifting that changes your experience, like within the body. Sometimes changing the body experience will change the thought experience, sometimes the thought. But more importantly than all of that, I think, is to see if we can notice the elaboration that we have quickly. I mean, as soon as you say maple bar, there's a whole elaboration, right, that pops up. And these experiences, we have this whole story built up. And Chris points out it's the meaning we're bringing to it, right? Whether we're rock climbing, the context and things that we're doing, we're bringing the meaning to these experiences from our own side. It's not the way that I'm describing the way I'm experiencing. And that's going to be, really invaluable to understand that we're actually a participant in how we experience these things, the meanings that we bring to things. And we can bring that together in ways that can be a lot more productive for ourselves and others. But we do want to avoid that whole craving thing that will bring us back again and again, right? So that was, Kurt had to bring up maple bars, but the noticing how we get so hooked into the craving of we need this or we need this not to happen, instead of equanimity, where whatever's happening, it's an opportunity to grow and to bring meaning to this moment. Mm-hmm. So
a really interesting point.
Go ahead.
Fear and excitement feel exactly the same in the body, because what did I do today but go whitewater kayaking, which is both terrifying and exciting. And I, deliberately did that activity to feel that. So that was kind of an interesting revelation and I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie, and adrenaline junkies kind of live off that fear/excitement continuum. And it is very similar. I mean, exactly the same, very, very similar sensations in the body. So I thought that was interesting that he pointed that out. It just kind of made me realize that, yes, that's what's going on.
Yeah. It's good to have a highly experienced therapist in the room here. So, yeah, well, the next topic that we will pick up, I'm just going to show you that just so we really probably will get there, is invigorating a dry Dharma practice. And so, oops, didn't mean to click that. So we're going to go back to the text. We're going to pick it up there. And that's basically noting that we can know all this good stuff and then be handed literally the keys to freedom and well-being. And I'm going to do the lazy song, and that it can be hard, because the thing about these practices is that they take time to really transform. So most of you have been doing this for a little while, and if you were to look at where you are today with where you were 3 years ago, right? Yeah, you're going to notice a huge difference. But on our day-to-day, we don't. And going back to Greta, who began this, think about how far you've come, right, to have that experience. And so it's this gradual thing over time, right? And so when we first start, we can actually get some pretty cool results right away, not be all worked up, be less reactive, go with the flow, it's all good until somebody punches you in the face. And And then, then it's like, get up and meditate again. And, and, things get dry or they get stale. And so we'll have our ups and downs, I was just, the treatment center today, working with a group. And this one guy, it's funny, this one guy, he's come back a couple of times, doing a little more experimentation out there. And this guy's a full-on meditator now, like full on. And he's taken to the practice and he's getting real benefit. And he sits for time, he was sharing with me some of his experiences. I could tell he's authentically getting some real experience. And, of course, the first bunch of times, he was like, this is all woo-woo crap. And, I'd rather do anything but be here. And, but, I think it's third time back and, authentic, great practice. And he's describing just how wonderful it is, which is hard for me to then, kind of say, that's wonderful. And, one day soon it's going to suck. I didn't tell him that, but you're riding high, you're getting the benefit, you're having authentic things, but yeah. And that's not gonna last, it's you're gonna sit down, your mind's gonna be all over the place, things are gonna get crazy, and it's like, the gears grinding. And because that's gonna happen too. And so there'll be ebbs and flows and all that. Right now, just, it's nice, it's rewarding, he's doing a great job, and he's having authentic results. And but then what happens is, they can get real stale, and get challenged, it can be difficult. And so next week we're going to talk about some of the strategies we get to use, keep it fresh, to make it engaging. If you got the book, you can kind of peek at it ahead of time. And we'll unpack some of that next week. Yeah.
John, where is that in the book? Is that chapter 8?
I only have the Kindle version, so I can't give you a page number, but if I go back, let me share the screen here.
I think
And I go on this limb. It's under the section, the determination to be free, which looks like it's,
oh yeah, okay.
right, you got it? Okay.
That's chapter 9. 9, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
chapter 9.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thanks for asking. That'll probably help a lot of people. And for me, I've had these, I've been around a little while, ebbs and flows and all that. And there's a really odd thing to do is not beat yourself up if you're not as engaged. Give yourself a break, but at the same time, hold accountability. This is important. And, the lazy song's not always the best one. And, get out of bed and do your thing. And so, they have some strategies that can help with that. And we'll talk about those next week. All right, well, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have cultivated from our time together. Taking a moment to just recognize that we have taken the time today, of all the things we could be doing, to come together, to understand ourselves and our experience, to improve ourselves, and to engage in our lives with more compassion and kindness towards others. A great deal of merit is cultivated, and we can collectively dedicate this merit in the ocean of merit for the benefit of all. The thought that may they be well, may they be nourished with this wisdom and kindness that's been provided to us, and dedicated for ourselves and our own continued spiritual growth, that we may be liberated from suffering and recognize our ultimate nature. And for those who care to, you can join me in the dedication. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare